So then we get into skills. So the skill list, I'll read all the skills and then we'll just kind of like flip through them. Astral, athletics, biotech. Because again, a skill list tells you what do the characters do. What do the characters do in the game? Astral, I don't know what that is, but we'll figure it out. Astral, athletics, biotech, close combat, conjuring, cracking, electronics, enchanting, engineering, exotic weapons, firearms, influence, outdoors, perception, piloting, sorcery, stealth, and tasking. Pretty normal list of spells, or a list of skills in terms of number, right? These are all the things characters will be good at in the game. You won't be good at all of them, but you will, you'll take those skills. They also have specializations, which means they're less expensive, but they are more specific bonuses. So each skill describes a specialization. When you have one, you get 2 extra dice. Once it's purchased, you turn it into an expertise to give it +3. Then you can pick another specialization, but that can't be an expertise. So if you're really, really good at something, you've got a bunch of skill points in it. Then you've got a specialization at 2 and an expertise at 3. So specializations are astral combat, astral signatures, emotional states, and spirit types. So I think this astral is like astral perception and fighting in the astral plane. Athletics, you can take climbing, throwing, swimming. And these specializations, they're nice because they also give you an idea of what each skill covers, right? Because climbing is a specialization of athletics, you use athletics for climbing. So con, which is like deception, I guess. Interesting that performance is a form of con. Enchanting is just for wizards. Firearms, automatics, long arms, pistols. This is a lot simpler than it has been in the past. I have definitely played versions of Shadowrun where it's like firearms, rifles, this specific rifle, right? So it's like AK-47s, assault rifles, firearms. Instead, it's firearms, and then I have a pistols and a rifle specialization. Yeah, 3rd edition was like that. Yep. I can't say that I'm 100% sold on the art so far. Like, it's all full color, and it's consistent in style, but yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about it. Yeah, exotic weapons, I guess, are just like whips and stuff. Oh, it's because exotic weapons stands in, you have to specialize. So it's not just swords or whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, all right. So what do you use for melee? Close combat. So some close combat weapons, you have to buy them separately. This is like exotic weapon proficiency in D&D, right? Kind of unnecessary, but that's fine. Cool, okay. So social test edge. We talked about this a little bit before. I'm interested because I think that you, when you look at Shadowrun, there is the face, but having played the face in games like this before, often the game and the game master say to you, you can play the face. You can be a social character. You can get things done with social skills instead of shooting or stealth. And you're like, awesome, I want to play that character. I'm going to put all my points in social stuff. And then you get one roll, you fail it, and then it's like, well, now it's shooting time. Why didn't you take any pistol skill? And you're like, come on, you said I could. So I'm curious if the game does actually support deeper social stuff. Well, I mean, if you look at D&D made bards into jack of all trades combat characters because the game knows it doesn't support that. So let's see, social test edge. The circumstances of a social test may allow one side or the other to gain edge. The mechanisms are not as numerically based as they are for combat. Game masters will have to use their judgment. Why? Why not just give me some granular rules? Like, why not just do that? Does one side have enough advantage of the other? They should be awarded edge. The following list gives you some ways you might gain edge of the other in a social situation broken down by type of situation. Generally speaking, edge is rewarded once at the beginning of an encounter when particular circumstances arise, not repeatedly throughout. Here we go. Social test edge. Oh, that's kind of cool. So like edge to talker, edge to listener with general con etiquette. Okay, that's kind of neat. It boosts up your social skills. It boosts up your social skills when you are in certain circumstances. So that's kind of cool. I kind of like that. It does again lean into the edge stuff. And then it gives us knowledge skills, language skills, and then some more fiction. So I'm going to skip this fiction. All right. Fighting. So, combat in Shadowrun. Combat in Shadowrun tends to be pretty complicated. There are damage codes. You get like a pistol that has a damage code like 5M4. There is some like rolling and some resisting. I don't hate it. I don't hate the complexity of the at least the early versions of Shadowrun, like that stuff. But it tends to be this is where the game bogs down, because what is supposed to feel like a quick, fast-paced gun battle thing ends up being more like rolling lots of pools, subtracting things, comparing stuff, and moving from pieces to piece to piece. And it can take quite a lot, especially if you have a combat-focused group against another combat-focused group. That can be quite difficult. So let's take a look and see if they have streamlined combat much or at all. So the step-by-step process for combat is grab dice, distribute edge, roll dice and spend edge, soak some damage, bring the pain. Okay. So the attacker collects a number of dice equal to weapon skill plus agility. Whatever makes sense for the weapon. The defender collects dice equal to reaction and intuition, modified for surprise damage. When all is said and done, you have a pool of dice for each side. So it seems like I'm shooting at Randy, right? And I get my pistol and my agility. I've got some edge, and I'm going to take a shot at Randy. And Randy needs to roll, it looks like, reaction and intuition to defend themselves against my pistol shot. All right. Distribute edge. Compare the attack rating of the weapon to the defense rating of the target. I'm having first edition D&D fucking armor class flashbacks. I've got a spear and you have chainmail, which means your AC goes down by 2, which means the target number is up 2. And so which I kind of like once you get used to it, but I feel like I would want to play this on Roll20 instead of playing it with my brain. Like, I am firing this weapon. You are using this. Go, generate for me. So, attack rating of the weapon versus the defense rating of the target. If either is 4 or more greater than the other, the player with the value gets a point of edge. Okay, second, look at the situation. Aw, Jeff would like this part. Look at the situation. Is it raining, windy, dark, excessively bright, overcrowded? Does either combatant have visual enhancement gear? Compare and toss an edge to whoever has the advantage. But Adam, you said it was only raining outside, and I'm shooting at him from inside. So you basically just figure out, you narrative this thing to figure out who gets the edge. Then you want to play it and see if any gear or qualities come in. Usually players will know their characters well enough to know when edge possibilities come up. Now I do like that. I do like that you can have abilities or equipment that give you an edge. Again, it's just advantage or disadvantage. It's just a more complicated version of advantage or disadvantage from D&D, in the sense that you're like, well, I have a bless spell on, and it's a blessing from bear. My bear totem has given me a blessing, and that gives me edge in any hand-to-hand combat. That's it, right? Like, that's kind of cool, because you can gain up to 2 edge, and you have these like built-in. I could see a lot of places where the game could play with that. Yeah, it's advantage number. I feel like, you know, as much as I find advantage like weird in 5th edition D&D, it is neat seeing a way to make that slightly more granular. Edge is starting to make more sense now than this like weird general thing before. And I can see you're going to get it every turn, right? And it's going to give you more choices in the sense that, like, if I shoot you with this pistol that has a scope on it, it's going to give me edge, but it's not going to deal as much damage as if I hit you with this sawed-off shotgun that I've got, which will deal more damage, but yeah, so that's kind of cool. I sort of like that. I dig like granular advantage. I'm okay with that. I'm not really into the inspiration bit of it, but yeah, like I tell a funny joke, then I shoot you in the face. Huh? I said the one-liner. Give me the fucking edge. Like it depends on the group. And I guess you could talk to your group and be like, listen, I'm not interested in a game where you just try to be funny for the sake of edge or whatever. Yeah. But if you're playing Pink Mohawk Shadowrun, if you're playing over the top silly Shadowrun, you're like, it's like an action movie from the 90s, one-liners like might fit. Yeah. I think I would like to see, and again, I'm hoping for a future that we may never find. I would like to see where the GM section tells us, because you could make the game feel different based on what you give edge for. Cool. So you gain edge as part of combat. You build up your edge, then you roll your dice and you spend it. Several edge actions are chosen up front. Some come in the back end. You get to go over this. This is like the most important table in the game, it looks like. So you decide, I'm going to fire, then I'm going to spend an edge to reroll a die. You can only spend your edge, what do they say, once? Yeah. Because then you don't have that constant back and forth of making the players make those decisions as they go, right? Yeah. You pick one, you do it, and then you move on. Yeah. And then you soak. So soak is roll your body attribute, and then I guess you add your armor maybe or whatever. Bring that weapon defense value modified to the step here. 5s and 6 cancel a point off the damage value. If you haven't used your edge yet, lessen the incoming damage. Okay, all right. Lots of choices. I'm kind of into that. That's fine. And then apply the damage left to your condition modifier and any secondary effects from the weapon. It has to do at least 1 box of damage for a secondary effect to take place. All right. Let's read. I'm going to read the example. We're going to take our time with this. I'm going to read you the example. Oda is firing a pistol using firearms 5 plus agility 7 plus 1 for a wireless active smart link for a dice pool of 13. The I-5er defends with reaction 4 plus intuition 3, a dice pool of 7. We compare the attack rating of the Ares Predator 6, which is 10, to the defense rating of the I-5er, 4. Body 3 plus 1 for leathers. Oh, that's where armor comes in. Okay. Oda has a difference of greater than 4, giving Oda 1 bonus edge. We check out the situation. It's nighttime in a dimly lit alley because Oda want to get them all bunched together and take advantage of the low light vision on his cyber eyes. This gives a 2nd bonus edge to Oda. Any elements that might help the other side? None are present. Let's move on. Oda decides to use those bonus edge now, hoping to end this fight quickly. Uses 2 bonus edge and 2 of his own to activate the 4 edge boost. Add edge to your dice pool, adding 5 more dice for a total pool of 18. He gets 9 hits with the exploding 6s from the edge boost. The I-5er leader isn't ready to go down without a fight. He spends 1 edge and a minor action to do a tactical roll edge action, giving him the advantage of the prone status against this attack. 2 bonus dice for the defense test. This makes the final defense test 9. With which he rolls a solid 4 hits. Oda gains 5 net hits and moves him over the next step. We calculate incoming damage using the base value of the Predator, 3p, 3 physical, and add net hits to get a value of 8. The I-5er rolls 3 body to soak the damage, gets 1 hit, and takes 7 boxes of physical damage. Here we apply the damage to the I-5er leader's condition modifier of 10, leaving him with 3 boxes. If the attack had any secondary effects, they would be applied here. This is the point at which you compare the enemy's injury level to their professional rating and determine if they're still in the fight. The I-5er has a professional rating of 3 and 7 boxes of damage, which means it's either time to sit on the ground and bleed or stumble away because he is done with this fight. That actually makes sense. It's complicated, but I totally parsed, like, yeah. It is complicated, but I think I understand what they're going for, and I think that after you do it a few times, this would probably become pretty smooth. I really like that bit at the end. Everything else, I was like, okay, so it's like a bunch of choices. At the end, that bit about professional rating That is super cool. Like once they take a certain number of boxes, they're done. They either run, you don't have to roll or whatever. It's how bad they are. And then they bail out. Now it's interesting too. This shows us the edge economy. The edge economy is you spend, he spent 2 of his own and 2 that he got, and he's going to get 2 every time he attacks in the same circumstances. And if you want, like goons just have a professional rating of like 1 or something. So it's like, yep, blam, you hit him, he's out. Blam, you hit him, he's out. I hit everyone in the room, they're all down. It's a way to make goons, right? That seems kind of cool. All right, so it seems like that's a little bit more streamlined. You're not just tracking damage, you're tracking how cool they are. Yeah. Rules for goons are always good in a game like this. Yeah, if you want a game to have goons, right? That's an option. Okay, cool. So you roll initiative, you add your total to your base initiative. That's just like every other version of D&D. A combat round is approximately 3 seconds long in the game world. You get to take an action and a minor action. You can trade between major and minor with restrictions. You can trade 4 minor actions to perform. But how do you get 4 minor actions? Haste spells, I guess? Characters can never start a turn with more than 5 minor actions. You buy them with, yeah, cyber gear and yeah, okay. All right, I hear that. That makes sense. Okay, cool. And then surprise. It seems like reaction and intuition is like super important. Cool. All right. So weapon and armor characteristics have range categories. They have weapon capacity. They do a bunch of other stuff like damage boost or defense boost, firing modes. Let's take a look real quickly at how burst and auto fire work. Oh, 1 additional minor action per initiative die. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, again, it's a first look. We're not looking at every single thing. If there's a tie in initiative, break it with Eric. Edge, reaction, intuition, coin flip. Interesting. Okay, so for each die, you get an extra minor action. All right, I don't hate that. That's kind of cool. Yeah. Okay. So, single shot weapons fire single shots. Blam. Semi-auto, you can go blap blap. Right? Increase the attack rating and increase damage by 1 if you fire 2 rounds. Right? Burst fire, you can fire 4 rounds as an attack. A narrow burst increases attack rating by 4, increase damage by 2. If you don't have enough rounds to do the full burst, reduce it accordingly. Full auto allows multiple attacks without using multiple attack minor action. You choose to split your pool among valid targets in range. It's a single attack and you just hose them. Uses 10 rounds, decrease the attack rating by 6. Okay, all right. That seems fine. Yeah. Oh, decreases the attack rating, increases damage. That's right. So it's more damage at a cost of less likelihood to penetrate the defense. It's like easier to dodge because attack rating is compared for edge, right? That's what you do with attack rating? Yeah, I think that's right. Okay, all right. Cool. We get a bunch of damage types. Combat options. Gotta have your grappling rules. I'm not even going to begin going into those. Hiding behind cover. Shooting through a barrier. Grunt groups. Here we go. To speed up combat, we recommend the grunts attack as a group. This saves on dice rolls. The game master chooses the size of the group, grouping them based on who they're attacking or type of attack. For a group of grunts, determine the highest attack test dice pool and rating. That's the base. Then +1 for each member of the group. For every odd number, add 1 die to the attack test pool. That becomes your group. They shouldn't be more than 5. Larger groups tend to get in each other's way. So up to 5, so you have little bunches of 5. Okay. That's fine. Swarm, you like swarm rules or whatever? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that's how you do it. You just like cluster them together. A single, like a single hit takes one out? Or how do you, let's see. It's just for making tests. So you still have to knock out individual members of the group. Okay. All right. Scatter diagrams. Grenade launcher examples, gas attacks. I don't really need to go through in any great detail here. Healing, magic, drugs. Here's a question for you. Do you prefer your role-playing games that are set in a like real a world based on Earth? Do you prefer them to have fantasy made-up drug names like Narcojet or just regular jet? Or do you like them having like specific, like real, like this is what crack does to you if you smoke it? I guess it depends on the game, right? This game has jazz and cram and deep weed, but it's got booze. Yeah, fantasy versions of real drugs. Turbo Coke. Yep. Nova Coke, Psyche, Zen, Nitro. All right. So that's fighting, that's gear, that's drugs, magic. So in this game, the way that it works, there's spells and there's conjuring. You cast a spell, that shit drains you. Drain causes you stress damage, and then might knock you out and might physically hurt you. That's drain. That's the cost. You don't memorize spells in Shadowrun. You know them, you cast them. There are two base kinds of magic. There's hermetic magic, which is like John Dee, kind of like Western tradition. And then there's shamanism, which generally covers, you ask spirits for power. That's the two types of magic. There's also like being an adept and being some other stuff. But that's kind of what those two things cover, basically, like spells and magic in the game. So the game does have spell lists. It's not like Mage where you just make up the spell's description. But when you cast a spell, it looks like in this, because we talked about spells not having force anymore. Force used to be like I cast a 4/6 mana ball, right? But it seems like that's been removed. So now you adjust the spell. You can amp up, increase area, or shift area. And that increases drain, it looks like. It's weird because you'd think that you would spend edge to do that, but. So adjust the spell, make a spell casting test, deal with the drain. So you resist drain. You cast the spell, take the hit, you do the drain. It looks like the spells have a built-in innate drain value now rather than it like scaling. But let's take a look at some of these spells. Fireball. Fireball is a line of sight spell with an area effect that does physical damage. It's an instantaneous duration, a drain value of 6, and does P damage. So when you cast a direct combat spell, net hits become damage and are added to any amp up that you do. Okay. Sure. That makes sense. Okay. And then Fireball does fire elemental damage and imposes the burning status. And then it's got a drain value of 6, which means if you cast it, how do we deal with drain? When you cast it, it's willpower plus your tradition attribute and compare the hits to the drain value. If the hits are equal to or greater, it has no effect. If the drain is higher, you take stun damage equal to the difference. So it's like you get hit with a 6-point spell. Or a 6-point like gunshot or whatever, but it deals stun damage. The damage after the test is higher than your magic. It becomes physical. Okay. And it's like aggravated damage. Perfect. Okay. So that's pretty straightforward, spellcasting. There's not a lot of like choosing what force to cast it at. There is a little bit of like how difficult do you want to make it and how much drain value do you want it to take? That's cool. So again, magic is going to tell us what a mage in this game would do. So they fight, they cast combat spells, they can detect things, right? Like the truth or enemies. They can heal. How much damage does Fireball do? It's up to you. So Fireball in this case does none of the spells have innate damage value. Like take note of that, right? They have an innate range, type, duration, drain, and type of damage, but they have no base damage level. You pick that yourself. So base damage level is how many successes you get on your sorcery roll, plus any bonus that you added by amping the spell up. So for each point of base damage you want to add, increase the drain by 2. So you could say it's base 0. You could say, I want this fireball to do drain 12 because I'm not scared, and give me 6 base damage plus whatever successes I get. So yeah, so for damage, and that's again, that's like combat spells, right? Net hits become damage, and do that thing. Now, does it have like a base? Because you'd think that there would be a base thing here. Someone in chat is saying it's half your magic, but I'm not seeing that anywhere. But also I'm like skimming this pretty quick. So let's take a look. Combat spells only for each point of base damage you want to add. You add 2. Roll the spellcasting test. Type, drain value. Combat spells, let's see. So it's not that. It gives you an attack rating, which is your magic plus your and that'll help you get edge when you do your spell attacks. Indirect spell casting. Yeah, why wouldn't it just say right here? Like it literally, I guess the game needs like a little bit of editing, because it literally says here, net hits become damage. The only place where it says the spell has like a damage rating is in indirect spell casting. In the example. Yeah. Indirect creates an effect, and then that effect causes damage. Oh, I see. So there's 2 kinds of damage. There's 0 and then up, and then there's the indirect version, which creates a fire that is a certain strength, and that's this one, right? Damage is higher on physical spells. Right, and that's why the drain is higher. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Right, so that's why, like, Mana Bolt has a drain value of 4, but Lightning Bolt has a drain value of 5, and deals more damage. It deals like 3 plus your whatever. Man, Lightning Bolt just seems like strictly better than Mana Bolt. It's like one drain point higher. And it electrocutes you. Why would you take Mana Bolt over Lightning Bolt? Like, I guess it does mana damage, which, like, I guess because you can ignore armor with mana damage. Yeah, I guess you'd use Mana Bolt to take out people who are but armor doesn't soak. Let me look at the difference here for physical or for mana damage. Let's see if it says anything about that. Right, and you can attack on the astral plane. It's invisible. You can knock out that cop that just jumped out. Yeah, direct isn't contested. Lightning doesn't work on ghosts. Okay, all right. So there are some differences, but at a glance, without digging too deep into it, it does seem that physical stuff has gotten quite a bit of a boost. Anyway, so they detect things. They can heal. They can create illusions. And then they can manipulate things. Animating metal, controlling thoughts, causing darkness, etc. So yeah, lots of different spells. And then options for ritual spellcasting, which is like bigger stuff. Let's take a look. So these are ritual spells you can learn and cast. You need like a circle, and you can create protection and curses, and this is like coven type stuff. So conjuring is when you summon up spirits. This is also very important to. Also, this art appears to have a spellcaster surfing barefoot on a mattress, I guess, which is a thing. Sure. So conjuring, summoning, bringing forth spirits. So what's weird is they did away with force for the other stuff, but when you summon a spirit, you decide on the force of the spirit you want to conjure. You need 1 net hit to summon the spirit. It's harder with higher force. Services obtained are equal to net hits. Then you resist drain equal to the number of hits the spirit rolled. This is stun damage. Sometimes you can summon a spirit and it can just knock you out right away. Spirits have a built-in time limit. Once one sunrise and 1 sunset pass, spirit returns to its home plane. conjurers in the polar regions go a little nuts during each solstice. I mean, that's sort of cute. And then you spend reagents to gain edge. Okay, so you have materials. A single service is a defined clear action that you ask a spirit to do or command them to do, and then banishing is turning other people's spirits back into the ether. I like spirits in the game. I think it's fun. I think they're kind of cool. It's if you like playing characters that summon other entities and then make them do things for you. So spirits of air, beast, earth, fire, kin, and water. Interesting. I wonder if spirits of kin is meant to replace spirits of man. Also, nice kindred spirits. That's cute. It's a good little, yeah. That's nice. You're mind linked to the spirit that you conjure, and you can make it use its abilities. It has innate spells and powers and stuff, and yeah. Hey, it's Beast. Kelsey Grammer? Oh, they're enchanting. He's enchanting some kind of like thing to put in this Weasel Boy drone. All right. So enchanting, making magic items. You have to obtain the talisma, whatever that is. I'm not going to worry too much about those rules. Foci are crafted items. If you're a magician, you want those. That's important. You need to do those things. You get a foci. It's like a magic wand. You can make a weapon your focus. Like your cool die coat katana could be your focus for your combat spells, I guess, if you wanted. But if you really want to be like a karate katana nerd, adepts are your thing. So these are the spellcasters that do punching and kicking and jumping around. If you want to be a superhero, this is the class to play. And then it looks like they have aspected magicians and adepts. So like quite a lot from the other books has made its way in here. Breaking down some of these like these larger archetypes into smaller ones, and they brought them in. Yeah, I saw that. Danger Sense. Yeah, that's good. And then you can have a mentor spirit. If you listen to people talk about playing Shadowrun, this is a thing you will hear, right? They're a bear shaman or a cat shaman. I always liked that it was broader than just animals. They were like concept shamans too, like Dragon Slayer or Firebringer, right? Those are really cool. What was the one that was Satan? Satan is like the adversary totem, I think. Like the modern Satanism one. Yeah. Yeah. The adversary. Yeah. I just like that the game you can be like a shaman of Satan. Yeah, Firebringer can be Satan too. Yep. Lots of aspects of that same thing. But you can't be an insect shaman because they're bad guys. Cool. And then initiation is like gaining meta magic, and this is all high level wizard shit. And then the Matrix. Now, the big thing about Matrix stuff in Shadowrun, this is hacking, this is decking, this is like cutting into the information superhighway and hitching a ride. It's so important to the genre, but it takes up so much time in play, and it's focused on one character most of the time. Like they are playing their own game. Now, part of what the game did, part of what the setting did was as they moved forward in time, they moved up what the Matrix was. So the Matrix is now not simply out there and we're in here or vice versa. It's everywhere. Augmented reality and virtual reality are now part of everything. They are floating all around us. And when we look at a thing, we might also see the layer of augmented reality over top of that thing. And then we can hack and adjust and deal with that. So the Matrix is no longer simply a place you go like in Snow Crash, but the Matrix is now threaded throughout life. And in a way, it mimics the astral plane, but on a technical level, on a technological level, which I think helps bring the game's cosmology together, like its actual play cosmology, in the sense that like a hacker can be in the real world and be like, cool, I'm going to dump back into AR and I'm going to see what I can find. So I think that's kind of cool. I like that. It does help separate that division a little bit. We get some basic stuff, but the Matrix, icons, personae, VR, AR, whatever. So using the Matrix, there's some step-by-step stuff. It doesn't seem too different on the outset, but again, like combat, it has its own subsystem in which you gain edge and lose edge during a hack. So, you know, like it seems as separated from the rest of the game as combat does. Like if two players get in a fight and everybody else is not in that fight, you know, they have to sit aside and, you know, not engage with that subset of the game. You know, I feel like the ultimate sort of climactic scene in a Shadowrun game is everyone doing their own individual thing, but at the same time. So the street samurai is fighting off Lone Star in the streets, trying to protect the unconscious body of the mage who is fighting Lone Star's, you know, law wizards in the astral plane, and the Decker and the Rigger are in the van working on the Matrix while they also try to drive the stolen materials away from the cops who are chasing them. That everyone gets to do their thing all at once. It's incredibly challenging to run a game like that when each of those systems is unique and independent, right? Where you're like, I am running, okay, we're using the combat rules on turn 1 and 2, then turn 3, we switch to the decking rules, turn 4, we do magic, turn 5, the Rigger gets to make a maneuver, and then we jump back to combat, and we have to jump around using these separate systems. I think if your players are really strong with the rules, it can be easier, but for me, it sounds really cool to be able to do that, but without a unified system that manages all of that stuff, it's very challenging to do, which I think is part of what draws people to a complicated role-playing game, right? They want challenge. They want to feel like I am engaging a very difficult set of systems that I've spent years learning, and I can do it. I can juggle those things. It would be like if you were playing Burning Wheel and you had a duel of wits, 2 players doing range and cover, and another player doing a fight, and they were all separated, and you were moving from one thing to another. Like any of these, it's challenging. It's very challenging, and I think that does appeal to some people, but the issue was in the past that you couldn't do that with Shadowrun, because in Shadowrun, it would be like, okay, Rigger, do your driving test. Done. Street Samurai, take a shot. Done. Okay. Matrix user, take 10 turns. Cool. Mage, take 10 turns. Okay, now you go. Like it had this inception problem where it was like things that happen in the Matrix happen at the speed of thought. And so you couldn't really nest those things. So I think the only way to do this is to just assume that what happens in the Matrix happens at exactly the same speed as what happens in real life. And I would love it, and maybe the game has one. I would love it if there was a chapter that specifically said, here's how to do multiple types of stuff at once as the GM. Yeah, so this is basically all the shit that you do in Matrix combat. It's very important to the game. It's very important to the genre. You'd want to read these rules yourself. But I mean, in Mirror Shades, there's a reason why I basically just made all the hacking 1 or 2 tests, because I didn't want it to be everybody take a seat. Me and Marcus are just going to play the next 2 hours. So it is cool, right? Sprites and personae and hacking and doing all of this stuff. It's cool, but it's hard to do in real life. And then we have our rules for rigging, and rigging is basically just all the vehicle rules. You're either wearing a goggles or you're plugged into your brain with a VCR, and then you do the thing. You control a vehicle. This is the driver rule. All right. Wildlife. So this is NPCs. This talks about, here we go. Here's some interesting stuff. So, grunts are not necessarily pushovers, but they're a group of individuals. Combat has special rules for them. You can track all of their, all grunts have a single condition modifier. Here we go. So 8 plus half of either body or willpower rounded up. Lieutenants add their professional rating. Grunts suffer wound modifiers for every 2 full boxes of damage. Okay, so there you go. So you make a little box and then you put all your grunts in it. And as they get blasted away by losing their hits, then their stats get worse. That totally makes sense. Okay. If those simplifications aren't enough, we also have, here comes the Reaper. Speed up combat by, let's see, anyone with a PR rating of 3 or less than 3 rather, don't roll for initiative. They just use their rank. A single wound takes a grunt down. They don't get normal resistance. And if a PC makes any hit on a stealth test, grunts are automatically unaware of them. All right, I like that. Like guards, goons, low-level nobodies. The people that the only purpose that they are there for is for that Panther autocannon to spin up and just boom, 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 just knock them all down. I like that. I think it's necessary in a game like this where we talked about this during the spy game, right? Where if I cannot take somebody out from stealth with a single hit, the stealth part of the game shifts, right? I should, nay, must be able to pop up and snipe the guy and take him out. And grunt rules do that, right? I think that's super important. Because you don't, it breaks the genre and it fucks with the flow of the game. If you're like, all right, I sneak up behind him. Cool, he doesn't notice me. I pull out my gun. All right, I shoot him in the back of the head. Okay, you hit him in the leg and he falls down. He's like, ow, my leg. And I'm like, I put the fucking gun up against his head. Wow. How do I hit him in the leg? I'm like, well, that's how combat works in this game, right? Like, there's no rules for anything else. So simply putting a single wound takes out a grunt, putting that in, that's it. That's what I want, right? I think that's important. It also empowers the stealth and assassin characters in the game. Yeah, right. And without it, like even an assault cannon might not kill them in one hit, right? Because they want cinematic damage ablation for the players and for the tough villains, but they also give you this rule to let you take out grunts in one hit. I think it's perfect. I think it's a great call. Cool. So professional rating. This is just how much they can tough out. And then we get some sample grunts, racist goons, earth first shamans, gangers, debt collectors, combat geisha / Yakuza enforcer. Sure. Oh, that's cool. So it gives you like they're rated by their pro rating. So go gangers and mafia debt collectors are level 1. Sons of Sauron brutes are level 2. Data harvesters are 2. Lone Star patrolmans and Minutemen security riggers are 3. Interesting. Okay. And then mafia soldiers, Yakuza blade masters, combat mages and stuff they all go up. Professional rating 6. Okay, let's skip to the top. Let's see. Renraku Red Samurai are rating 7. Seraphim Avenging Angels rating 7. This is the monster manual, right? SEAL Team 6 Counter Electronics Commando. Tier Ghost. Yeah, these guys are nuts. In the setting, the tier ghosts are basically like the they're the what's the Israeli like defense? I guess just the IDF. Whatever their like special forces are, but for elves. And they come from Portland. The Mossad, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah. 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 I like tier ghosts. They're cool. I started playing Shadowrun so I could play a ghost or an elf with a fucking sniper rifle. So elves with rifles, I want them. I want to be them. They're tough and cool. And then up top, Elite Special Forces, Sioux Wildcat Combat Specialist, and Sioux Wildcat Shamanic Support. Yeah, Gun Elf. There's a reason I call this game that. So then Prime Runners are like fully fleshed out characters. Important NPCs that basically have the exact same rules as PCs, which theoretically, if the game is telling you make player characters to serve as adversaries, it means that PvP should theoretically be more or less balanced. Right? Right. And then some sample contacts, which of course are useful. So people you could know, because knowing people is important. And then we get critters. So if for some reason you need to know how much like a dog stat is, I guess if you're playing John Wick, you need this, or this, right? If you're playing Shadowrun Austin Power, you might need shark stats. And then we get the actual monster manual. So Bargus, basilisks, cockatrice, devil rats, vampires, ghouls. Many ghouls are people. Draco forms, feathered serpents. And then this is the special powers. So critters in this game are characters who, despite 50 years passing, are still really big fans of Matt Mercer and his friends, which is like really cool. I don't know why they get their own special powers in this game, but Shadowrun has never made sense to me. But critters are like the monsters of the game or whatever, and they get special powers like accident and animal control, and they're different from spells in that most player characters can't get these things. Yeah, most player characters, you have to get them through your spirits or through an ally or whatever. And then some of them have weaknesses or belong to the Imperial Guard, I guess. Okay. So here we are. Some ways into the game. It's a long game. There's a lot of stuff. We're trying to take as deep a glance as we would if we had some time at a game store. This is the part that is, to me, most important. Now I'm going to zoom ahead and we're going to see how many pages the GM section is. So we start on page 230. Okay, there are 14 pages. 14 or 15 pages, depending on how you count, in this book of GMing stuff. So let's see what Shadowrun, what tools does it give us as a game master? So what the frag does a GM do? In Shadowrun, the GM fulfills several critical roles. What did I tell you? Several critical roles for the group. First and foremost, they're a storyteller for the players and the characters. The GM is responsible for setting up and maintaining the session's narrative or story, which in turn gives the player something to do and experience. It's your job to bring, I would phrase that differently, but basically I think that's fair of most role-playing games. Come to the table with a situation, describe that situation, give players something to do, right? What do you do? Now, these stories can be something original the GM created or something they're working from, like a pre-generated adventure or a series of interconnected adventures known as a campaign. Either way, it's up to the GM to get their players from the beginning to the end. Which that's very traditional GM advice. Get them from the beginning to the end rather than like following them along with every side trip, detour, obstacle, and plot twist encountered along the way of whatever they're running, be a simple scenario or more complex adventure or whatever. Which, like, okay, sure. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Finding your GM style. Basic level of GM activity is setting the stage. The GM can offer a more immersive experience, complete with detailed descriptions of the setting, opposition, interactions, and NPCs, and most importantly, the action. They can do things like incorporating maps or figures. The right ambient music can bring the mood. Okay, none of that is Shadowrun specific. That's very basic stuff. Second, the GM is a combination of adversary, ally, and guide to the players. In Shadowrun, or any RPG for that matter, the GM controls everything in the game setting the player and their characters will encounter. That is a lie. That's a lie. You're lying. In Shadowrun, the GM controls everything. That's fine. Any RPG for that matter? I mean, that isn't true. It's not true. I don't know why that's there. But whatever. Yes, that's true. So they're everything else in the world. That's fine. At any given time, the GM is both trying to hurt and help the players. I mean, the characters. Any character within the game that is not the player characters are known as NPCs, and it can be anyone or anything the GM needs. All the NPCs are under the GM's direct control unless there are special circumstances. Additionally, the GM is responsible for guiding the PCs through the game, not just with regard to the game plot or narrative, but game rules and concepts. So Shadowrun is saying you're there to hurt the players, but also help them, and it's your job to teach them the rules, and you have to know the rules and guide them through the game from start to finish. I guess what they're trying to say here is that if the players forget a rule, this game is complicated and you should know the rules so you can tell it to them. Third, the GM is the referee and ultimate authority in the game. Not only is the GM responsible for moving the story along, they're also supreme arbiter of the game rules during the session. This means if there's a question regarding rules interpretation or when there's a situation that isn't specifically covered, the GM has final say. The GM must be judicious and cautious in doing so. The game is all about making sure everyone has fun, which is true. The GM's job is not to make sure everyone has fun, but this puts a lot of pressure on the game master. Like you want to hurt them and help them, make sure they get where you need them to go, teach them the rules, but if you don't like the rules or you don't think they fit, it's your job to change them. It's very old school. It's very like traditional gaming authority. That's fine. I did not expect them to make any big changes to this. I imagine that if I were to ask a developer, you know, why did you phrase it this way? Why is it so traditional? They would say, because we have Shadowrun Anarchy for groups that want to play something a little less like that. Which, okay, whatever, fine. I would hack this game almost immediately by changing the stuff that I am intended to do according to the game, right? I would move it more into a direction of allowing the players to be more equal participants in that stuff. I don't really like the way that that's written. There is a sidebar about not abusing your authority. In arbitrating the rules, a GM can sometimes be perceived as or be heavy-handed or power tripping, which can disrupt or ruin the game. If there are multiple ways a GM can try to diffuse the situation, such as agreeing to a temporary compromise and doing more rule research later, it's recommended GMs be even-handed in their ruling and never use their authority unfairly against the players. The GM gets the final call, but they need to help everyone have fun rather than just try to make rulings that make life easier for them. I mean, okay. The game is about to tell another, what I would consider, another lie. One of the fastest ways for GMs to bring their game to a screeching halt is to do little or no preparation for it. I beg to differ. So, prep number one, know your adventure. So just like, read your prep, know what you're prepped for, do what you got to do. But like horseshit about the prep thing, right? You don't have to do these things. I think if you're playing like a pre-gen adventure, yeah, read the fucking thing because that's the point. But, you know, this is basically just honor your prep, if there is any. 2, know what your players are bringing to the table, right? Know what characters they're playing. Like, again, I wouldn't consider that prep necessarily, but just be familiar with what kinds of characters people are playing. Game items, rule books, notepads, have them around, have materials ready to go. So having materials ready to go is as important as knowing the player's characters and knowing your adventure, I guess. Know what the players want and expect. Now that's interesting. That's actually good advice. So some groups emphasize story, others like detailed mechanical stuff, some like planning, some don't. Take some time to find out player preferences and then make the game work for them. Not everyone in a group likes the same stuff, so it'll take work to give everyone a chance to enjoy their favorite stuff. Yes, that should be point number 1. Session 0, talk about what's in the game. Have a conversation with your player about the game elements they're comfortable with. How violent should the game be or not? Should romance be a part of the game? What about sex? What about making out? What about fucking? Are those things in our game? I don't know. Talk to the player. Are there elements of the game world that are too close to individuals' real-life trauma and thus be best avoided? Yes! Fucking thank you. Do that. Be like, even before you choose to play Shadowrun, be like, here is Shadowrun. I have read it because I'm interested in it as a game. It deals with complex topics like race and how that can make people horrible to each other. And also, it has some stuff about it that maybe we want to gloss over. And it's kind of pro-corporation in some places. Like, how do we feel about this stuff? It proposes that the universe of this game, you become less human the more you alter your body. How do we feel about that? Does anyone have a lived experience that makes that feel uncomfortable? In this game, no one morally will give a shit if you shoot someone in the face. How do we feel about that, right? Like, do that. Talk about that stuff. It's not all nerps and funyuns, you know? There's some stuff in the game. And I like that this calls that out. Know what the players want and expect. I think if you're playing with, and I did this with Marcus when we first sat down to play Shadowrun, I asked him, all right, DJ Wheat, what have you played in Shadowrun before? What have your other Shadowrun games felt like? Right? And he told me, right? So that was information that I could use and then later be like, I'm sorry that this game was not like what you thought Shadowrun was, but I hope you had fun anyway. And just as an aside, I cannot tell you the number of people that angrily tweeted or Reddit messaged or emailed me to tell me to go fuck myself because Mirror Shades was not Shadowrun. Like, literally over the course of the whole show's run, dozens. It was nuts. Like, so much. So talk to your players about what they expect, because if they come in expecting Tom Clancy's Lord of the Rings and they get Mirror Shades, they might not be very happy about that experience. So, some other GM advice: how to handle glitches and critical glitches. There's a table for suggestions. Okay, that's great. Just like the tables from Genesis. Reputation and heat. I don't care about any of this. Reputation and heat is a stat. Character's reputation encapsulates the things others have heard of them, affected by a specific runner action in the game. Unlike heat, reputation is earned immediately. When it is earned, it might not be evenly distributed throughout the team. One individual's good or bad decisions don't necessarily carry on to others. Guidelines for reputation changes are on the table over there, but of necessity, they involve a fair amount of game master discretion. Interesting. So, engaging in public violence that kills multiple bystanders, bring your rep down by 2. Engaged in public violence that kills a bystander, -1. Can I make a brief point about Cyberpunk? So, in this game, mechanically, being seen killing a law enforcement officer drops your reputation by 2. Law enforcement officers in this game belong to private military corporations that are paid directly, not via taxes. They are paid, sometimes governments pay them. They pay them to protect people who can afford it, right? I feel like that -2 seen killing a law enforcement officer might be a +2 in certain neighborhoods. I think a lot of this reputation changes table really needs to be, keep in mind who sees you doing this, right? Who is it? Like, if you're in the Redmond Barrens and you rocket propelled grenade a Lone Star truck, killing everyone inside, probably the people around you would be like, yay, right? They wouldn't be like, oh no. I mean, probably they'd be like, oh no, a rocket propelled grenade, but they wouldn't be like, wow, what a bad person. However, reputation is universal. It's not applied to rep with certain groups. Now, you could very, very easily, and I would suggest this, split this reputation into rep based on certain factions, right? Lone Star, killing a Lone Star officer drops the thing. Killing a Lone Star officer drops it or increases it with gangs, right? So that's a way you can do it. Now, there is a thing about negative rep and positive rep, like in here, right? Like, it focuses on this specific idea of like the world and what it thinks of Shadowrunners, which is fine. It's fine to have reputation be a base status quo, but I just feel like in a game that posits itself as being cyberpunk, I think like this is interesting because we've talked before that random tables are setting. This is setting right here. This is a lot more setting in these lines than the setting that exists in the 4 or 5 pages of introductory text, right? Like this tells us about what the world thinks. That if you are seen killing a cop, but you do it to rescue a popular famous person, you just even out. That man killed a police officer. Yes, but he did it to save Maria Mercurial. Hooray! I mean, I feel neutral about this. So that's like, it's interesting. I like the idea of mechanically of there being a thing that moves players' reputation around. I would probably find a way to break this up into, rather than like objective reputation change, into like what certain types of people think of you. And I think that's very easy. That's an easy adjustment. Heat is a statistic that shows how much pressure Shadowrunners are feeling. This is cool. These are stars from GTA. This is heat from Blades. You lower your heat by getting help. You lower your heat by laying low. You gain heat by doing violent things, getting in direct conflict, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a heat roll. You generate heat. Is this new to Shadowrun 6 or has this been around for a while? I don't know. I like heat and I like rep. I like them both. I think they're great. They give you a place in the world and they let us track. It's new. Okay. And it lets us track like where the characters kind of exist in that space. Yeah. Here are some awkward teens with guns. And then context, so you can gain more. Now, we're halfway through the GM section. Some of it is practical advice, but now this is just the Dungeon Master's Guide, right? Security sensors and scanners, locked doors and mechanisms, chemical weapons, compensation. That stuff all feels pretty Dungeon Master's Guide to me, like traps, monster stuff, magic items, that shit. But here's the other bit. What is the game about? Right? How is this game about that? For what are the players of this game rewarded? Okay, so here's how it goes. You know how runners are. Once they finish a job, they want to get paid as if they were actual employees or something. So demanding. Anyway, what's their expectation? That's their expectation. So you as a stand-in for Mr. Johnson will have to deliver the compensation the runners want. If you're a good Mr. Johnson, you know the only way to compensate some Shadowrunners is by dumping them in the Puget Sound. The question is, how much should it be? Run compensation comes in basic forms, setting aside changes to heat, rep, and contacts, all of which were discussed previously in this chapter, karma, and cash. We'll discuss each one in turn. Karma awards should be given at the end of each session. How big should those awards be? Here it comes. Adam Coble pet peeve. The essential number of karma to remember is 5. That's the multiplier per rank of attributes and skills. It's how much specialization and expert costs. That means each time a character earns 5 karma, they have a chance to get an improvement for their character. So at the end of each session, the game master can ask themselves a simple question. How close to a good increase should the character get after this session? Did they struggle to make progress? A 1 or 2 karma award might be appropriate. More significant gains get 3 or 4. And if they did a really excellent job or finished a run, 5 or 6. You can give more than that at their discretion, but it should be rare. Just make it up. Just fucking make it up. And it's like, it's so bald-faced too. Like, do you want them to level? Do they deserve to level up? Like, it's kind of nice that they just straight up tell you, like, think about how much they are going to get from the karma you give them and do that. but I don't, it's not, you get no rewards for doing anything specific. It's just like, please, did the GM think that you deserve the reward? I feel like there should be a base level for doing Shadowrun shit, right? Did you do what your character is supposed to be good at to help them succeed at the run? Right? Because this game doesn't care about your character's personality, doesn't care about your character's feelings, it doesn't care about any of that. It cares less about that than even Dungeons and Dragons does, right? It doesn't have any alignment or anything like that. So appropriately, a karmic reward system based purely on success or failure at a run and doing things run based, that should get you experience. This is just like, take whatever the GM wants to give you, right? Just here you go. Just, if the GM thinks you deserve 6 karma, awesome. You cannot earn it, right? I guess you could ask your GM, dear sweet game master, lord of all that is, what must I do to gain 6 karma this session? And the GM will say, please me. And then tell some funny jokes so you get edge. Like, it's just, I don't like it. I like playing games, and I don't like this as a game designer, and I don't like this as a player. As a player, I want to know how I can get experience so that I can get the most experience. I want to get out there and I want to bust my ass. I want to be like, I am not doing this because I don't get any fucking karma for it. Let's go kill that guy. He's full of karma, right? I want to be able to do that in a concrete, clear, understood way. That's what I want. But I don't know. Maybe some people are like, I don't care. In this case, if we were playing Shadowrun 6th edition basically as is, the characters in Mirror Shades would never have gotten any experience ever, which is why we shifted the model of XP, and why the XP model drove the game. The game became about what the characters believed and felt and what they wanted, and came about the people they know. Right? XP is how the players know what to do. Skills and attributes and abilities are how they know how to succeed at the thing that will give them their reward. Generally speaking, it's easier to make payments on a per runner basis, but having Mr. Johnson make an offer for payment makes it clear from the outset the job will pay. 5 karma is a base unit of karmic award. 5,000 new yen is a base reward for money. How much more is it worth? How much less is it worth? Whatever. That's fine. And then, of course, one must finish out the game with gear. Now, I'm not going to look at all the gear, but we will take a little peek at the various items within the game because, you know, pictures of guns. It's Shadowrun. Who doesn't like that? Let's see what we got. Show me some table. Why is this in the gear section? Like, I really don't. What is this refer? Survival knife? Sword, I guess. Sure. Okay, there's swords on it. Fair. All right. So, okay. Let's see. A katana, the greatest weapon of all time. Historically, the greatest weapon ever made. It has a damage value of 4 physical. It has the best attack rating of any melee weapon. An availability of 3, which means boutique items. The sort of thing an aficionado seeks out are made in relatively small batches. Not the rarest item, but not sitting in a ton of stores across the sprawl. I feel like a katana should be rating 1. Like, everyone has one. They're just around. Like, oh, a katana? Yeah, you can borrow mine. Here you go. I got like 3 more in my room. Okay. All right. So katanas, obviously very powerful. And it costs 350 new yen. Perfect. Cool. All right. Tell me more about this katana. Oh, it just says it under a sword. Okay. All right. Bullwhip, shock gloves, injection arrows, all kinds of bullshit. Monofilament whips. What is the strongest melee weapon? I think a monofilament whip might be. Katana is a 10 attack rating and 4 damage. A combat axe is 9 and 5, so pretty good. You're not gonna get edge as much. Let's see. A bike chain is 2 stun damage. It looks like a katana is the most like flat out attack rating. Oh no, monofilament whip 6 and 14. Yeah, that's why you got to buy a special proficiency for it. Okay, all right. Good throwing weapons, projectiles, tasers. Give me some pictures. I want to see pictures of guns. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Walther palm pistol, the Colt America. Good. Now, a problem with these games is that it tends to be that every pistol is the same as every other pistol. So let's see how these pistols stand up to one another. So if you have an Ares Lightfire 70, why would you choose that over a Beretta 101T? Let's see. They're both 2P. They're both SA. The attack rating, let me see what the slash means on attack rating. I think it's like per range, close, near, far, wherever you are. Okay. All right. So the difference between an Ares Lightfire 70 and a Beretta 101T is that the Lightfire is better at closer range, not as good at medium range. Wow. So, okay. So it's range. So that's good. The Beretta has a lot more ammo, is slightly more available. And does it have any special abilities? No. The 201 comes with a shoulder stock. Oh my God. What can you, that is like the epitome of like tactical nerd, the like light pistol with a shoulder stock. And then, yeah, the 70 and the 75 are exactly the same except for price. And I don't. 70 is standard. 75 is only available through legal channels. Oh, 75 comes preloaded with Smart Link and a laser sight. There you go. 75, yeah, Smart Link and laser sight. Silencer increases, but they don't come with it. You got to buy it. Okay. All right. Anyway, pistols. There's the Ares Predator. I was always a Ruger Super Warhawk guy myself. Yeah, this bad boy. I fucking love big pistols. I could lie about it, but why bother? Ares Viper Sliver Gun for all you flechette heads out there. But yeah, it seems like this is pretty standard. This is pretty standard Shadowrun shit. Like tiny adjustments up or down on various things. We got our Ingram Smart Gun. We got our Remington Room Sweeper. We got the AK-97, etc., etc. So, like, what? I guess, like, is there gear that gives you edge? Like, wireless bonus. I'm just looking to see if like smart links, yeah, or whatever, give you an like edge on this stuff. I guess that's in cyberware probably. So there's our Panther. Look at that fucker. Panther XXL. How much damage does that thing deal? Oh, this text is so small and I'm so old. Panther XXL, 7 physical damage, semi-auto. 1, 9, 12, 8, 6. Wow, 12 attack rating. Big bad boy. What is edge? Edge is the ultimate, like, built-in, like, everything. It's the balancer of the game. It's like basically it's the core mechanism of the game. So that's fun. They turned that DMSO gel pack gun into a meme. Remember that meme? I don't know if you've been playing Shadowrun for a while. I don't know if this is new to this edition, but the like squirt gun full of DMSO is like a thing. It's a Shadowrun meme. So they made it into a thing in the Squirt Gun Wars. Exactly. They made it into a thing in the game. I didn't see it in 5e, but yeah, I know the concept has been around a long time, but I didn't know they officially made it like a part of the game. Yeah, just gear, tripods, flechettes, stun grenades, rockets and missiles, clothing and armor. I'm disappointed by the lack of art in this section. And then, yeah, various stealth gear and what have you. No, this is the full core rulebook for 6th edition Shadowrun. Yeah. So this is all the stuff that your character could buy. Yeah, our fake sins in here. Oh yeah, here we go. Low light vision gives edge if your enemies don't. And then Smart Link receives the range, ammunition level, and is part of the smart gun system, which is 260. Let's see how smart guns work. So smart gun system increases the action rating by 2. And it looks like that's it. Fire from cover because you just, you look up and you see through the gun. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So lots and lots of gear that you can use to perform your Shadowrun. Good. Okay, cool. So then we get into cybernetics. Obviously another huge part of the game. They come in grades between used, alpha, beta, and delta based on cost and availability. They cost a ton more, but take up less essence. So if you're buying exclusively delta wear, you're going to end up with a ton more cybernetics than if you have a whole bunch of alpha wear. You can't recover your essence. So like, I feel like if you can't afford something and you want to wait, then you end up having to buy, but that's just kind of part of the price of being a street samurai. So let's see. I mean, move by wire, one of the big ones, skill links, obviously smart link, another big one. I don't think that they would have removed any of that like significant stuff. And it seems like it mostly works the same way. A lot of this gives you a mechanical bonus. So like strength for cyber arms or bonuses for cyber ears or cyber eyes for perception. Some of them give you special abilities like you act faster in combat. And then others just give you like narrative stuff. Yeah. But I always look arms and legs. I always felt like if you were a street samurai, yeah, boosting your initiative was hugely important. And like getting those wired reflexes is always a big deal. So yeah. Cyber implanted weapons. And then something that was added in 3rd edition forward is BioWare. So like organic versions. If you want to be a cat girl, you can. You could be an elven cat girl for all that it matters, using cultured BioWare or regular BioWare. And then we have our magic item table. We have our vehicle table where you can buy such exciting things as the Ford AmeriCar. I'm really sad there's like so few pictures in this. Like I love seeing pictures of like the vehicles and the drones and stuff. But yeah, only a couple of pictures. And then that's it. We end on a table of vehicles. And then this lady in front of the love hut. So it's my understanding. Oh, cool. Thanks for the ad at the back there. It's my understanding that there are setting books coming out. Generally there's 2 setting books that are out already that might or might not have more mechanical material in it. There are a bunch of peripherals, like there's a GM screen and dice and like Prime Runner figurines, or whatever. I think the edge system is kind of cool. I'm kind of interested in that as a concept in the game. I'm not sure if it adds or subtracts from the experience. Like, I don't know if it's something fast or not. I think it would be if you got the handle of it. I think to a degree, like, give me a second. Let's go back to the first page, right? Let's go back to what they set out to do when they were talking about 6th edition Shadowrun, right? So their goal for this game is put the classic man, magic, and machine elements of Shadowrun in a more streamlined package, making the rules move faster while still giving players lots of choices and tactics. This book is shorter than the past few editions, but still has space for plenty of options. It's not, they didn't want to make the game a streamlined game. They wanted to make the rules move faster than it did before. I think without a great deal of balancing, what's a good core concept, which is to say edge, right? I think edge is a fine concept. I think D&D got a lot of success out of reducing a bunch of bullshit from 3rd edition into advantage or disadvantage, right? They basically, anytime something is good, it's advantage. Anytime something is bad, it's disadvantage. And we just flatten everything out. And I think they got a lot of success out of that. It made a game that does feel streamlined, right? I think that in Shadowrun, they are attempting to do that, but on a lesser degree. I think that what they're trying to do is take a bunch of shit from Shadowrun and boil it down and use edge as the base thing. It's good and bad. It moves you up and down in terms of whether you're going to succeed or not. But I wonder, it does to me seem that without a lot of playtesting, which I hope they had, because Catalyst Game Labs, you own Shadowrun. It's a huge property. I've seen your booth. It's a big booth. You own Battletech. You have the money to do this. I assume they playtested it, but without that kind of stringent playtest, I think you could very easily create a system that is highly gameable. The single most worrisome thing in this game, to me, and I think we talked about it when it came up, the single most worrisome thing in this game, in the edge system, which is, say, the core piece of the game, is that bit where they told us, hey, Game Master, it's your job to fill in the gaps. We know that there are places in this game where you can basically grief for edge. So do not allow your players to do this. How? I don't know. You'll figure it out. So that bit, I think to me is like worrisome. I still don't know that if I had to choose a cyberpunk game, I would necessarily pick Shadowrun to fulfill that. I think that if I was playing a Shadowrun game, I would try this game. But I don't know. Honestly, I don't think any version of Shadowrun has ever had mechanisms that really fulfilled the promise of the original game. I think this is an improvement. It's an improvement over what I saw in 4th. It's an improvement over what I saw in 3rd. I think both of those things have improved dramatically. There are a lot of other options, which we're not really here to talk about, like cyberpunk games in general, but there are a lot of other options, and there are going to be more options as we continue in the months ahead, right? If you want to play a cyberpunk game right now, obviously there are 6 different editions of Shadowrun you can choose from. There is a new cyberpunk game coming out, right? Cyberpunk Red. There's all the old versions of Cyberpunk. You could try those. There's the Sprawl, which I felt like fine about. It does one very specific kind of like early Gibsonian kind of military action focused version of Cyberpunk. You could play Sixth World, which is the PBTA sort of Shadowrun game, which I think is like fine, but I think anything that's trying to be Shadowrun will ultimately fail because Shadowrun is so Shadowrun. Yeah, you can play Genesis, right? They have Shadow of the Beanstalk. My ultimate cyberpunk game probably is the future version of whatever it ends up being called, the Blades in the Dark cyberpunk game. I only want magic and elves and trolls and shit in my cyberpunk if I'm playing Shadowrun. Any other cyberpunk game that tries to include magic shit immediately and innately becomes like off the board for me, because I'm like, well, I don't want that, right? I don't want, like, if I want to play Gun Elf, I'm going to pick a version. Null Vector. That's the one. Thank you, John. Yeah. I never remember. I feel like you've had to tell me this 1,000 times. I think Null Vector will do it. I think Null Vector will come out and that will be the game for me, but it won't be Shadowrun. I'm not looking to replace Shadowrun. Shadowrun is so Shadowrun that nothing else that I have ever played has been able to try to be it, and I think falls short. But you can do cyberpunk elsewhere. And I think that, you know, if you want to go like full simulationist, you could play GURPS and use GURPS cyberpunk and then throw in like GURPS in Nominee and do cyberpunk in Nominee. Like GURPS exists to be that kind of like slapdash, throw it together thing. You could also do cyberpunk in Fate, but it would be pulp. It'd be cyber pulp, right? So bringing us back to what we were talking about at the beginning, like, is Shadowrun cyberpunk? I don't think so. I would say that it's marketed as or branded as cyberpunk. I think it has aesthetics of cyberpunk. I think it is science fantasy. And I don't mean that as a I don't mean that as a denigration of the game. I just think that calling it cyberpunk is a mistake. And you know what? I'm gonna just give me a second here. We're gonna perform an experiment. We're gonna perform an experiment here. Let me go. Let's see. Can I control F in full screen? I cannot. All right. How do I? Come on, Foxit. I just want to look for a word. There we go. All right. So they do twice. Maybe 3 times. 1, 2. Yeah, okay. So there's a few places in the game that it describes itself as, oh, those are just going ahead pages. Yeah, so there's like 2 times that the game refers to itself as cyberpunk. And I don't think that it is, really. Like, I think most stuff that claims that it's cyberpunk isn't really. I think for it to be punk, you have to be thematically about fighting the man. And I think what kind of undermines cyberpunk in Shadowrun is that you're often fighting the man for the other man, right? You are still ultimately like bonded to structures of power, which I think takes away some of that original kind of thing. But it's a debate that I'm not so super like interested in. I think as a game, what I'm more interested in is, does Shadowrun accomplish what it sets out to do? Is it a game about like murderous operatives fighting in the shadows? Is it about a game about man and magic and machine? Yeah, right. I think the mechanisms hold out. Is it a game about role playing? No, not even a little. Is it a game about characterization or history or relationships? No, not really. It's a game about doing the Shadowrun thing in a way that your GM thinks that you are doing it properly so that you can get experience points, which is like fine if that's what you want. But the idea of these first looks isn't to like pass judgment or review a game, because obviously it takes time to like dig through and you got to play a game before you can really understand it. But at a first glance, I think that they have succeeded in so much that this is a simpler version of Shadowrun. I would like to see an actual play of this game. I feel like Lauren is in one or running one. and I would like to see Edge in action. I'd like to see what that Edge economy looks like. I'd like to watch the flow of Edge from player to like use to gain. And I feel like if I did a show that used these rules, that would have to be part of the overlay. Who has how much Edge? What are they gaining it for? And what are they spending it on? Right. So yeah. Okay. So yeah, Roll For It has an actual play of it that they're doing. They're using 6th edition. So my suggestion would be, if you'd like to see it in action, yeah, go and check that out. Go check out Roll For It, see how it works, see it in play. Hopefully though, this first look has given you enough information to let you know if you are interested in pursuing Shadowrun 6th World as a game that might fit at your table. Because that's all I want to do. I want to give you the slightly deeper dive than flipping through the art at a game store, and to ask some hopefully intelligent questions about the system and how it works. So yeah, cool. Go forth and run in the shadows if you like. But keep in mind that, you know, this game's got a long lineage and it's struggling with complexity. If you do end up picking up the game, it's my understanding that there is a pretty significant errata document adjusting the rules. I assume that errata will get rolled into the PDF. I have like a pre-release version of the PDF. I think some people have it as a result of buying the physical copy. I know that they're going to be doing a broader release. So I don't have a link for you to go and check out, but as always, I do appreciate if you do pop over to Drive-Thru and buy any PDFs or whatever. There's an affiliate link down below that it would be awesome if you used it. Otherwise, thank you. Thanks for coming. Shadowrun is a game that I have been playing forever, and it was really cool to be able to get a look at 6th edition. Whether or not I ever play it, it is cool to take a look. I love a new edition of a game, whether or not it is good or not, because I like seeing developers try new things with an existing property. So if you are interested in more content like this, if you like these first looks, if you watch this and you're like, wow, Adam, you had a smart thing or two to say, check out the rest of my first looks. I've done the Alien RPG. I've done Band of Blades. We did Spy Game. I have several more coming up in the future. If you're watching this live, next week I have Miseries and Misfortunes, and then I have Mothership coming up. We have Pathfinder 2 first look that I'm working on getting set up. So if you want to see another game with a storied history, Pathfinder 2, and then also Casketland, we'll take a quick look at. So all of those games will be coming up in the next couple of weeks as sort of the post-Gen Con first look. And if you have a game that you know that's coming out that you think I might be interested in, or that you would like to see me do one of these first looks at, let me know. Hit me up on Twitter at Skinny Ghost, or just throw me a follow and let me know in the YouTube comments. That's it. That is Shadowrun. That's 6th edition. Is it good? I don't know. Does it run smooth? I'm not sure. How's the art? It's fine. Edge is interesting. Does it work? I don't know. A lot of questions left to be answered by play. So go and play a game, I guess. Thanks for coming, everybody. We'll see you next time.